Selamat sejahtera and good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Asia Water 2020 Regional Water Industry Expert Dialogue, Achieving Sustainable Development Goal for Clean Water and Sanitation pre-event webinar. I am Nathan Leong and I am your MC for today. Before we start the webinar today, there are few rules that we have to adhere. All microphones and video of attendees have been muted. If you have any question, please wait for the Q&A session or do list them down at the Q&A box. If there's any internet disruption during the virtual conference, kindly be patient and try to sign in again. Without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Teo Yen Hua, advisor to the ASEAN Water Series, our moderator for this session. Dr. Teo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nathan. And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Regional Water Industry Experts Dialogue. This is the second time we are having this Experts Dialogue under the Asia Water event. The first one was in 2018. And we found that it is quite interesting and it's useful because these industry experts are also from the think tank group because they are from the industry association, and often they are called upon to provide ideas, and they are sharing their knowledge with their respective government. So for this afternoon's this expert dialogue, we are fortunate to have 6 panelists. Actually, we wanted to invite more, but because of time constraints, we have only allocated 1.5 hours, and we can only have 6 panelists. And with us, as you could see from the slide just now, we are from Cambodia, we are from Indonesia, we are from Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and last but not least, Vietnam. And let me first invite Mr. Chew, because Mr. Chew from Singapore need to leave us early because he has another function to attend. Allow me to just give a little bit of background of Mr. Chew. Mr. Chew, actually, he's the president of Singapore Water Association. And prior to that, I mean, he's the chief marketing officer of Singapore Technologies Engineering. He also holds the post of deputy president and also president defense business of ST Engineering Marine. He was actually the former EUB CEO and subsequently appointed as the chief executive of Land Transport Authority of Singapore. And we all know in ASEAN region, Singapore's in terms of service areas, in terms of access, I think Singapore has achieved 100%, both for water and sanitation. So let me just like to invite Mr. Chew. Mr. Chew, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Teo. Yes, thank you for the slide. First of all, let me take the opportunity to thank everybody here today for inviting me to speak at this panel discussion. I, of course, share my thoughts on the Asian water landscape and also of what is happening with the regional water associations, especially the Singapore Water Association. As you know, I am the president of Singapore Water Association, and you can see from the slide here, SWA was actually formed back in February 2004, largely as a trade association to represent and promote, of course, the interests of Singapore companies in the local water sector. It plays an important role in developing a vibrant and dynamic water cluster, and of course aspires to promote Singapore as a regional hub for all water-related services and technologies. It also provides a good platform where we can have fostering of collaboration and also exchange of ideas and knowledge. And more importantly, it serves as an important link for our Singapore water and water-related companies to the larger international water network by strengthening their presence in the global market. And to date, just to share with you, we have grown to have now 268 members from an initial 9 founding members all the way back in 2004. And of course, we are aspiring to grow to about 300 member companies, hopefully by next year. Next slide. So just to give you some indication, these are some of our member companies. They encompass practically all parts of the water value chain, and they are represented by system integrators, EPC companies, consultants, OEM, MNCs, large local enterprises, small, medium enterprises, as well as local startups as well. Next slide. And this slide sort of gives you a flavor in terms of the activities of SWA at a glance. For the past 16 years, actually, SWA has organized and led local companies overseas to participate, of course, in trade fairs under the Singapore Pavilion with grant support from the Singapore government. Next year, of course, we are hoping to see how we can gear up for the potential roster of trade shows as and when travel restrictions get lifted, which I hope will come sometime. But regionally, SWA organized overseas technology and business missions to many countries, many cities. Example, to Munich, Israel, Taiwan, Melbourne, Nanjing, Vietnam, Myanmar, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Philippines. While, of course, we hosted conferences and seminars for the local water companies. We help to foster partnerships and also international outlook with our virtual expos, our conferences, webinars, and virtual visits, despite, I think, the COVID situation which we all face. And today we are also essentially having an online conference. Since April 2020, SWA has actually conducted more than 30 virtual events and sharing sessions, including virtual tours, actual virtual tours to PUB waterworks, one in Choa Chu Kang, another one at Ulu Pandan Water Reclamation Plant, and also actually interestingly to experimental power grid center at Jurong Island, which is an island that hosts a lot of petrochemical complexes. Now, besides the physical classes, of course, SWA has started to conduct online master training class courses for the water professionals since July 2020. And again, we are doing this trying to adapt to the larger COVID situation and bringing our training from the classroom essentially onto the internet. And we, of course, have very, I think, vibrant calendar activities throughout the year. Of course, of late, there has been essentially been interrupted again by the COVID situation, but we do have a quarterly Singapore Water Industry Night, which has always been a highlight in our calendar. And it's always well attended, creating essentially very useful networking platforms for our members to interact, exchange ideas, and of course, forge deals. Next slide. So in terms of international partnerships, SWA has signed MOUs with foreign embassies such as High Commission of Canada, the Singapore, Taiwan External Trade Development Council Trade Administration. We have close working relationships with many embassies, including the Danish embassy as well as the Israeli embassy as well. And moving on, we hope to foster our existing collaborations with regional water associations, many of whom are of course represented here at this panel, including the Australian Water Association, Malaysia Water Association, Philippine Water Works Association, and of course, not to mention the International Desalination Association. But internally in Singapore, we also work closely with many research institutions, such as the EWTCOI in Singapore, A-STAR, our leading research and development agency, NURI, which is part of our National University of Singapore, also at the front end in terms of water and water-related research. The Singapore Membrane Consortium, as well as Singapore National Biofilm Consortium. So many research institutions which we have a close working relationship with. We also have formed Water Alliance partners with other Singapore associations, including those that is not exactly in the water industry, such as the Indoor Farm Factory Innovation, Smart Grid and Power Electronics Consortium in Singapore, which got SPECS, the Waste Management and Recycling Association of Singapore, even the largest Singapore Business Federation, as well as Singapore Manufacturing Federation, and of course Singapore Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The idea is that we hope through this partnership we can certainly further group, I think, Singapore companies and continue to see how we can build a more vibrant, a dynamic industry with technology innovations and collaborations, which we can certainly bring out and share well beyond the shorelines of Singapore. Now, talking about going beyond the shorelines of Singapore, next slide, please. I think we are all essentially everywhere out, whether it's in Singapore or other countries. We're all actually trying to focus ourselves. How is it that we, I think, as countries, as a larger international body, how are we going to achieve essentially the sustainable development goals? Of course, it continues to be a tall challenge for many countries, and it's not surprising that many of them are facing, I think, I would say, challenges of achieving the SDG. In fact, there are many challenges, and just to name a few as I highlight here. I mean, we got to deal with issues like instability due to conflict between nations, implementation of programs, see how to ensure the programs can be able to fit the local context, and of course the larger issue about governance, how to bring political will to transform development programs into actual sustainable practice in the long run. And SWA has also been looking at this particular set of challenges with our members company and see how is it that we can also play a part to support, I think, the achievement of SDG despite the challenges that we face. Next slide. And in fact, as we look at sustainability as an important, I think, global concern and also priority, in August 2020 this year, actually our ministry in Singapore, previously known as the Ministry of Environment and Water Resources, has been renamed to become the Ministry of Sustainability and the Environment. And that actually reflects essentially the emphasis of sustainability to be one of global concern, and which the ministry actually has responsibility to see how we can address that global concern and do our part as Singapore to bring about, I think, the achievement of SDG. In fact, the ministry will drive and coordinate public sector efforts, take the lead in sustainable development, and ensure that sustainability is at the heart of the MSC family of agencies core concerns. And of course, within this SDG, water continues to be an important priority. At the same time, the ministry will also drive and coordinate efforts outside the public sector to basically rope in private entities, associations like ourselves, as well as industry, to see how we can work together as a complete, I think, ecosystem, contributing to the achievement of sustainability goals for Singapore, and also contributing, I think, to the wider cause. So I would say that despite the challenges, I think we are making good progress in terms of achieving the sustainable development goals, and we certainly like to continue our efforts to see how we can actually bring, I think, sustainability to a higher level for all to have the benefits. And with that, I will conclude essentially my sharing. Happy, of course, to have you raise any particular points which will be of interest to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Chiu Min Leong.
Yeah.
And, well, I think that Singapore is doing well when it comes to SDG, and Mr. Chiu has just shared with us the collaboration and the partnerships that they are fostering with many other industry associations and also the industries to promote the global concern to address the issues of sustainability. And I'm sure that when we have our next the ASIAWATER 2022 regional experts dialogue, we will have more time to look at some of the achievements Singapore has made. So with that, let me again thank Mr. Chiu, because Mr. Chiu has to leave to attend another function. So thank you so much, Mr. Chiu.
Thank you.
Next, thank you. We hope to catch up with you, Mr. Chiu, one of these days.
Certainly.
Thank you. Now, let me proceed with the Cambodia. And before I do that, allow me to just give some guidelines in the form that every speakers will be given about 7, maximum about 10 minutes, and at the end of all the presentation, we have 5 more presentation, and now I think we are already coming to 3:15, and questions and answer we will do that after all the presentation. Before Mr. Chai Lo, who is the president of Cambodia Water Association, give his presentation, let me give a little bit of his profile. Mr. Lo has more than 15 years experience in the water sector. In 2011, Mr. Lo was awarded Social Entrepreneur of the Year in Asia by SWAP Foundation for Social Entrepreneurship. And he is the chairman of WE Venture Company Limited. It's an engineer by profession. And he's very actively participating in a lot of ASIAWATER event. And let me now invite Mr. Lo to give us some insights and also share some information about the Cambodia addressing the SDGs. Yeah, Mr. Low.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So today I'm very pleased to share with you about access to clean water in Cambodia and also how the private sector can involve in the access to clean water in Cambodia. So please go to the next slide. So as you may know already that the clean water is a basic need of human right, but still many or thousands of people cannot access to this basic need. So especially in Cambodia, they still have a lot of the people do not have access to clean water. Please, next slide. So our government tried to also the best to how to achieve the SDG. So such as they fix some objective and target like 2025, try to provide the clean water to the urban population that can access to safe water and also affordable price with the sustainable manner. And they can provide at least 90% water supply from the pipe and 10% from other source. And by 2030, that we can try to achieve the universal and with the affordable access to safe and affordable drinking water for all. Please go to the next slide. So in order to do that, the government alone cannot do itself. So it needs to involve from the private sector, because right now we have only like in rural area 26%, around 26% that the population can access to pipe water supply. So still a big gap to achieve the SDG. And half of those pipe water supply get water from pipe water operator. So it means that the private operator played a very important role also to work closely with the government, try to reach the SDG. Please go to the next slide. So right now, in terms of the current private sector, we have many private sector involved in the providing the pipe water supply in Cambodia, but they also try the best to investing and construct and operate this sector. And for the revenue, they can collect the charge based on the agree of tariff that cover the operating costs and also the reasonable return on investment. So, but still have the big gap that they cannot increase so much because they still have the higher cost of investment and also low affordability. So that why they still have low affordability, return on investment also for the private water operator. Please go to the next slide, please. So the issue related to the current private sector engagement, it means right now there are many existing private water operator, but they operate as the family business. So they have the problem limited to the capacity for the overall planning and also the development and integrate engineering skill. So sometimes they just start the family business. They don't have enough skill, engineering skill to manage properly, and also limit of the understanding about business aspect. So as a result, right now they still have cannot move and also meet the standard of the water quality standard and remain like the low extension or also slow undertaken. They still have also the like difficulty to do the monitoring about in terms of like technical aspect and also like water quality. So this need a lot of the engagement from also from the government to support them. Please go to the next slide. So this is something that we need to do in different way that can that we if we want to achieve the SDG. So based on the first figure on the left, it means this is like the pipe water supply. In 2016, we have around 30% that can reach in general in pipe water supply in Cambodia. And if we talk about the improved water, it includes both pipe water and also like tube well or like another additional the water. So when we talk about improved water, we can see that we can reach to more than 60% already. But we, in order to reach to 2025, it's also still a big gap to do that. So we need to do different way that we can accelerate this access to clean water. Please go to the next slide. So to give you some highlight about the water sector in Cambodia, Ministry of Water Resource and Methodology in charge about the water resource management, Ministry of Environment in charge of water environment management, and Ministry of Industry, Science, Technology and Innovation in charge of the urban water supply management, and for the Ministry of Rural Development in charge of the rural water supply management. So we have at least 4 ministries to work on the like the water issues in Cambodia. Yeah. Please go to the next slide. And in terms of the water sector framework, so we have the 3 pillars. So the government and also the private sector and also the customer. So together try to work to reach like different aspects, technical and economic and social. So we work together in this different pillar that can make every partner, every partner can be happy and also to satisfy all those particularly, especially like technical, economical, and social. So this is some highlight about how the framework in the water sector in Cambodia. So please go to the next slide. So this is some highlight in terms of the need of investment in order to achieve the SDG. So at least in order to like access to improve water in Cambodia, we need at least around the budget around 92 million per year from the 2015. So in order to achieve that, this is some like the budget that we need to invest every year. Yeah, go to the next slide, please. So we have also like the big gap if we like combine between water and sanitation. We mostly need around 191 million US dollar per year to invest in this sector. Yeah, please go to the next slide. And for this, the slide just to share with you about the investment in, or to give you some figure about investment in pipe water supply. Right now we have around 500 pipe water operator in Cambodia. And for some information, when we want to invest in pipe water supply, the most cost, the most important part is to invest in the pipe network, and the rest is we invest in water treatment plant. So we can see the difference that the most of the cost is spent in to set up the pipe network. Please go to the next slide. Also gives you some information like idea about in Cambodia we have the 4 category in terms of size, the private water operator, micro, small, medium, and large. For the micro water operator, we classify less than the 750 connection, and then we can also have the cost around the $100,000 US to invest. So yes, this is just some idea about the investment. And also go to the next slide, please. In order also to moving forward, the government of Cambodia, Royal Government of Cambodia, try also the best to update the water supply policy, also about the developing the water supply law, review the existing regulation aligned with the law, and develop the new regulation instrument to fully implement in the law, and to also try to study provincial investment so that we can also know exactly what is the potential side and the financial to invest, and also the master plan. Yes, go to the next slide, please. Yes, thank you for your attention. And also if you have the question, I'm happy to answer later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Loh. And I would like now to invite Mr. Rudy Kusmayadi. Yeah, just a little bit of a background on Mr. Rudy. Mr. Rudy is the chairman of Indonesian. Oh, I see. Okay. I was told that we will start with Datuk Kade first. Yeah. And a little bit of background of Datuk Kade, even though I know that a lot of us know about Datuk Kade very well. Datuk Kade is the president of Malaysian Water Association, and he's a managing director of Sakra Sol Sdn Bhd, offering advisory services on water, wastewater, green technology, and environmental management. He was a CEO of Malaysian National Sewerage Company, known as Indah Water Consortium, for about 7 years. And also he had served as the COO of PAAB. PAAB is the company, Malaysian Water Assets Holding Company, wholly owned by Malaysian government. Likewise, IWK is also a government company. Currently, Datuk Kade sits on the board of Runhill SDG and also several other companies. He's an engineer by profession and a fellow of Academy of Science, Malaysia. Datuk Kade.
Thank you, Dr. Theo,
Yeah.
For the introduction. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I was told that I'm being given about 7 minutes, so what I'm going to go through is a very fast on the brief introduction of what is SDG, and then zooming into what Malaysia has done, or what Malaysia has forecast, what we're going to do for the next year until 2030. Next, please. So it's just an online presentation. As I say, I've got 7 sections that I will just brief through in this short moment of this presentation. Next. It's just a show of concepts. I start from basic. Maybe some of you may not know what's SDG. So we are focusing on SDG number 6. That is just to ensure the availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation. So the two keywords here is water and sanitation for all. Okay, next. Okay, that's not all. When we talk about two sectors, there are about 11 indicators. So you break down into the detailed part of it. Those are the areas. I'm not going to read all, but you got about 11 of it, and that is all related to the water and sanitation. And the detail is all spelled out in various documents. It's just a snapshot and just a summary of what it entails and how it being looked at as indicators to make sure, to ensure and measure that you have met with the SDG goal. Next. I'd just like to highlight the indicators and mapping a few areas. At 6.1, look at the universal and equitable access to safe drinking water for all. Again, is universal. And it's also looking at access to adequate and equitable sanitation and hygiene, and includes everyone, and also to the needs of the women and girls in those vulnerable situations. 6.3, we've got to look at improved water quality. That's very rampant, especially in Malaysia nowadays. If you have been following what's happening in Malaysia, we've got a lot of problems in the water quality. 6.4, substantially increase water use efficiency, because still what's happening, not all, but generally still not efficient enough. And of course, looking at the sustainable withdrawal of water, of fresh water, and that is to prevent scarcity in future. 6.5, looking at 2030, what we're going to do is all about integrated. So integrated management, it can be water resources, it can be basin, it can be a lot of things. You also have to look at what's happening now is by year 2020, they are looking at protect and restore water ecosystem, and that involves the source. And when we talk about source, that is water catchment. Now water catchment comprise the forests, mountains, rivers, aquifers, and such. Next. So 2030, what we hope to be achieved globally is to expand the international cooperation, such as what we're doing now, and the capacity building is very important for the continuation of safeguarding the future valuable assets of water, and then also to provide proper sanitation and also related programs. Last not least, it's very important that we need the public involvement, meaning that we need to touch the heart of the communities and the people was involved in using water. In fact, all of us is involved in using water, so we need to touch the heart and make them understand what is this water sector is all about. Next. So the aspirational global targets, I just did the highlighted one, is defined as aspirational and global, with each government setting its own national targets guided by the global level of ambition, but taking into account national circumstances. Because every country, especially Asian, what you can hear from Cambodia and Singapore, we have different sets of situation. The gap is very far. As you look at Cambodia, just now is very far. I'm sure when you hear more from the other countries, the gap may be very, very far. So how to get that everyone be at par, and then to achieve the goal of everyone can enjoy the good access to water. Next. This is just an example of how the national target being set. About 4 areas here. There's accessibility, availability, quality, and others. Because it's about quantity and quality. So first, it must be assessed. The perception of water is free no longer stand, because we need some fund to bring the water to the doorstep, to the pipes. And that is all this, how they set the target by numbers and how it can be measured to make sure that everyone meet this, and then we see how to address this issue and how to help the other countries by achieving the same set of targets. Next. Just another example. This is purely on the sewerage system. Just now it's water, the sewerage system. Again, this is also another source of pollutions. If we don't take care of this, it will happen. What happens is going to be an epidemic. As what we can see globally, we are having this COVID-19 pandemic, and this can be another pandemic of waterborne diseases, which once upon a time ago, back in the olden days, half of the population in some countries being wiped out because of improper sanitation. And it can happen again if it's not well addressed, and is how the target setting to make sure that all the population have proper sanitation and proper treatment of sewage. Next. I'm now going into the how nation addressing this SDG. As you can see, these are the areas that we have looked at, and some areas are still blank. We are looking at it because what we look at where we are now is 93% of our population enjoy the safe and use safely managed drinking water services is on now, and about 89% use safely managed sanitation services. It's not at par with the water supply, but at least near enough. And that's one and thing, because water and sewage or sanitation, you cannot spread it out. You got to be at par so that everyone enjoys. On the hygiene part, this is ongoing. There's no proper set target, but no measurement being been done. Wastewater, of course, we have looked at it. Everyone have their wastewater being treated safely before it's been discharged into the water courses. Water quality is being reported again is a bit wide. There are some targets I will put in the slide how to do this. And efficiency, this is another area that we have to look at. What we said is quite in line with the SDG global goal on how to reduce this and to use water efficiently. Water stress area, this is about again a very what they call area that we have to look at carefully, because the perception of we have a lot of rain but there's no water. So how you look at it, addressing the proper management to address the water stress area and how to have a balancing of water supply demand. The water management, again, is looking at integrated. What we are looking at is integrated water resource management, but there are more to that. We have embarked on that, and government, Malaysian government is quite serious in implementing this integrated water resource management in the next 12 nation plan. Transboundary, again, a lot of discussion been done. It's about integrated water basin management, how we share with the neighboring state. We have a lot of states. Some states have water, some states don't have water, and how we look at it, sharing on this transboundary basin. What you can see, what has happened in Malaysia, they have a lot of water transfer. Example, the most recent one is from Pahang to Selangor, a huge amount of water, and we have the almost, I would say, one of the largest water treatment plant we built in Southeast Asia that is situated in Langat. Eventually, we have more than 2,000 megaliter per day. So ecosystem, there is a target there that we have met, but there's just a baseline for that period. But that is another area that we're going to look at. And of course, the next two part is just cooperation on the amount of the development we're going to look at into the cooperation, and then that was back to how much we're going to spend to that. Last not least is participation is very important. The stakeholders participation is the main stakeholders, and there will be some indicator to look at. More importantly, my personal view, there must be a proper engagement, and then we have to introduce this satisfaction survey on how we perform locally and globally, and how we put ourselves and rate ourselves, whether we have achieved and whether the achievement is enjoyed by all or judged by all at the same rate. Next. This is to show the government is very serious on SDG, but they are looking at more than SDG. This is the area that what I showed there. It's only those major parts that the government has looked at by year 2030. Example, the increased rivers, the clean rivers increase in percentage. So by year 2030, we should achieve about 25% of 351 clean rivers that we have. And that is the target. It's quite serious about that. It's from 5% in 2023, we should reach to 25%. It's tall order, but we need the cooperation of all. That's why on the right-hand side, I'm not going to give the perception that one or the others is community program. The non-revenue water is another serious area that we are facing. That is currently about 35% average. but looking at by year 2030 to reduce to 25, there has been an estimate of funding because 1% you require about 1 billion, 800 million to 1 billion Malaysian ringgit to reduce, and it is tied back to the tariff. This, I think, is another area of concern. Two main area of issues that the government is addressing on how to look at tariff, because it involves a lot of things. I will give this summary later on. And the treated water reserve margin is another area. Good reserve margin is about 20, but some state has now been negative. This is another area that the government is looking at, and that is the target of this 26 initiative that we look at. Financial sustainability at the moment passed more than 10 years ago, which Dr. Teo also involved, that we have go into the water industry restructuring that has not completely completed yet, because some states have not migrated into the new licensing regime, or what the act, we call it Water Services Industry Act. So it's still ongoing, but hopefully we can achieve that before the year 2030 to make it very sustainable. But alternative funding is being looking at, because current situation is only water supply that have proper funding, but sewerage is still far behind, and still looking at the government aids to build more infrastructure, because the current situation of sewerage for the single water vector that IWK managing 7,000 plant, if you include the CST, about 10,000 plant for the whole peninsula, excluding Sabah Sarawak, is a tall order. And soon enough, if there's no proper step being taken, then this industry will collapse. So urban connection, again, we're looking at 95% to be connected on the sewage services. We are looking also now into reclamation water, which we target to recycle by year 2030 at 1,500 MLD. And that will also give a relief to the potable water supply when you have this reclaimed water kicks in. Last not least is integrated water, river basin management. This is, as I say, apart from integrated water resource management, you got to also look at the integrated water basin management. This is where we look at sharing of water between interstates. Next. This is quite recent from the government in order to promote the long-term solutions on how we get the consumer involved to get a continuous supply. One, we plan to build, to upgrade the existing water treatment plant and build more water treatment plant, and of course to increase the reserve margin between 15 to 20, but safe enough is 20 is good. Reduce the NRW, as what I mentioned, by 25% by year 2030. And this is the other part is, this is where the program of education and awareness need to come in, because our current average of 230 liters per capita per day is not good, and we have to reduce it by 280 by year 2025. And this needs a lot of public programs. And of course, we have embarked in the regulators, the SPAN, in short, there's a commissioner of water. They have started using these water saving gadgets, and some industries giving it free. Some water operator like Penang, and also in Johor, they are giving this thing to the consumer so as to reduce the water consumption in in-house or domestic area. Next. So the way forward for this, the government, national SDG roadmap, if you look, they are divided into 3 phases. So of course there are 4 areas there. If you can see, what is more important now is data gathering. It's about big data. If you don't have this big data gathering, you do not know. It's just like asset. You cannot manage what you cannot see. So you cannot manage what you do not have. So they're engaging a lot of agency to have this thing done, because still we have this segmented or fragmented what they call framework of the industry. So we cannot afford to work in silo. So as such, this big data gathering is very important. Then collaboration with all related agencies, and also monitoring to measure this SDG so that it be on track. And of course, investment is another area on the National Statistical System, in short NNS, And SS is another area of looking at the strategic partnership to have the statistical learning center to strengthen the statistical capacity in implementing SDG agenda. And last not least, how to develop the integrated database for the data compilation, monitoring, evaluation, and reporting. There is a plan to put a portal of the SDG so that it can be shared and it be owned by every single person in Malaysia, so that they own this SDG, and together we can achieve it, so that we will achieve the SDG goal. So the roadmap, as I say, have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and that is in line with the next 4 nation plan, 12, 13, 14, and 15, looking at this and how to transform this water sector from the cost center to become profit center. So what is more important in moving forward, although we talk about it quite a lot, so the government seriousness in this is very important because it involves governance, it involves integrity, and involves the seriousness, and more so what being talked frequently is the political will on how to transform the water sector from the cost base to become what we call profit center. And we should not forget the public involvement in the public awareness and education program, because without them you will not achieve, because we need the unity and one voice, so that everyone understand what is SDG 6 all about and what is it in there, because normally the stakeholders will always ask, especially the business side, what is it to me? So this is where, if without water you cannot move forward, and without water you cannot go for the development. So in order to do that, maybe one of the steps is to rebrand the industry. That's why we look at some of this industry, what you're going to embark on is into the zero waste management concept. That is what we call sustainable. And you look at the ancillary business and downstream business, so that it can be recycled, reused, and a lot. And more importantly, what's needed now is integrated. The word integration is very powerful, because we talk about integrated water resource management, we talk about integrated water basin management, we talk about integrated water supply management, and the supply demand management. These are the 4 mains that I will see that will move forward the SDG, apart from eventually what is needed is a good technology, the low cost technology with the high impact. So you may not be ready for now for the high what we call technology, but at least you go for the low cost that can give a high impact, and then so slowly you upgrade yourself to become at par to the developed countries. So the intention is to develop, we have Malaysia to become the wastewater hub for the developing countries, because Malaysia has a range of what we call technology that we have, especially in sewerage. We have a number of things that you want. I would say I already regard Malaysia as the hi-fi shop of the industry, because you talk about the septic tank, you talk about the communal septic tank, you talk about in-house tank, you got ponds and the rest. So to suit your budget, this is a place to learn, and how we have done it, and to the current status of mechanized and the state of the art, what we have recently in Pantai and Langat, whereby you have a treatment plant down underground, and upstairs is the recreation center. For water supply, is another area of challenge of in looking at how to address the water pollution issues that cause a lot of disruption to the water supply, and is looking at a different source of taps that we have to utilize, and that will eliminate the reason for not closing down the plant, because we have some other source. So with that, I thank you, and I hope I've not taken much time. So should you need more information, please, there's a forum for the Q&A, and can contact me through this address. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kade, for a very comprehensive presentation. May I now invite Mr. Rusdi Kusmayadi. Mr. Rusdi is the chairman of Indonesian Water Utilities Association, or PEPAMZI, and we normally like to call Mr. Rudi Pak Rudi. Is currently the managing director of Pemuda Air Minuman Tirta Raharja Kabupaten Bandung. And Pak Rudy has more than 30 years of experience in water supply project, as well as managing water utilities. He graduated from Environmental Engineering Academy and a master degree in Regional Development Management. Pak Rudy, the screen is yours.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Dato.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to ASIAWATER. First of all, I would like to say thank you to ASIAWATER for having me here as the panelist. My name is Rudy Kusmayadi. I am the chairman of Indonesian Water Supply Association, commonly abbreviated as PERPAMSI. So it's an honor for me to be here, and it's a great opportunity since recent global pandemic. We are still be able to have this event. On behalf of PERPAMSI today, I would like to share with you on how Indonesia achieving SDGs for clean water and sanitation. As we already know that SDGs were set in 2015 by the United Nations General Assembly and are intended to be achieved by the year 2030. There are 17 interlinked goals to SDGs. One of the goals and how to achieve is what we are going to discuss today. That is SDGs 6, Global Goal 6, clean water and sanitation. Drinking water have been the focus so far, and the COVID-19 pandemic also made this goal increasingly important. The goal is to achieve universal and equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water for all by at least 2030, so that everyone will have safe water to drink, no one left behind. The water utilities should aim to monitor all aspects of water supply within their area of responsible, and aim for the continuous water supply, which is of sufficient quantity, quality, continuity, and of course affordable cost to be available at the population connected to the supply. The goals has 8 outcome-oriented targets, including safe and affordable drinking water, and open defecation and provide access to sanitation and hygiene. 6.3 is improve water quality. And then 6.4 is wastewater treatment and safe reuse, increase water use efficient, and ensure fresh water supply. 6.5 is implement integrated water resource management, and 6.6 is protect and restore water-related ecosystem. The two means of achieving target as implementation are target 6A is by 2030. Expand international cooperation and capacity building support to developing country in water and sanitation related activity to program including water harvesting, desalination, water efficient, wastewater treatment, recycling, and reuse technology. Target 6B is support and strengthening the participation of local community in improving water and sanitation management. So therefore, Indonesian government next slide. So therefore, the Indonesian government adopt SDGs to the national medium-term development and start from 2015 until 2016 and 19 and 2020 until 2024, and the last is 2025 until 2029. They are conducted by National Planning Agency, or we call usually is Bappenas. Monitoring is carried out periodically, health and midterm and final year implementation of National Medium Term Plan. And now we are running the National Medium Term Development Plan for 2020 and until 2024. The target is the 10% access to improve drinking water. And then the second is 15% access to safe drinking water. And the last is 30% access to pipe water. This target are planned to be achieved by water utility development, upgrade water supply system to expand and coverage area, smart water management in mine district, and also provide portable water. The second is water utility improvement. Public water utility has business plan, FCR tariff, that means full cost recovery tariff. And then low non-revenue water and healthy performance of PDAM. The third is water utility regulation, local strategic policy complete with water supply master plan, and then fourth is water quality supervision, water safety plan application to supervise water quality. Next. Today, Indonesia is still fighting against a global pandemic. I think like with you all here, COVID-19, it's undeniable that global pandemic has significant impact to water supply system in our country. Access to improve drinking water is crucial. Even in normal condition, moreover at pandemic period. Wash hand under running water is an effort to prevent virus spreading. Lockdown on large scale, social restriction and mass layoff make people struggling with their income and hard to pay water bill on time. So in my country, some of water operator extend the payment period. In other words, global pandemic caused people hard to get clean water also. So considering the impact, there is some adjustment in our country for water service target. As you can see in the graph, that 2020 target is less than 2019 target. Reducing access to improve drinking water target also planned in 2021 and hopefully in 2022 we have been freed from global pandemic and can achieve 10% drinking water access by 2024. Next. In Indonesia, access to drinking water was supported by pipe system and non-pipe system. So there are also adjustments for the target scenario. With pandemic situation, target scenario for non-pipe system is increasing, while target scenario for pipe system is decreasing until 2022. So the assumption used is that pandemic end by 2022 and hopefully in 2023 situation will getting better. The last finally on behalf on Indonesian Water Association, I would like to express my appreciation to all speakers and participants for taking time of your busy duties to attend this event. So hopefully the discussion will be experienced among water utilities, will highlight lesson and possible action to achieve the goal. Together we can address the challenge. I wish you all be healthy and stay safe, and thank you for your attention.
And we will come back to you later for the question and answer. And let me just proceed to invite Mr. Dixon. Mr. Dixon from Philippines. And a little bit of background, Mr. Dixon. He's currently the Vice President for International Affairs, Philippines Water Works Association. And he's the General Manager of Morong District. And at the age of 36, he is the youngest head of government agency. It's quite an achievement, Mr. Dixon. In 2008, then President Arroyo, through a sectoral organization, appointed Mr. Dixon as Special Project Assistant in the United States. Mr. Dixon holds a Master in Education and will soon complete his PhD study. He's a professional lecturer in the Graduate School of Teaching Local Government Administration, Public Policy, and Personnel Administration. Mr. Dixon, can I now invite Mr. Dixon to his presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Dato.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dato, my fellow speaker, participants, ASIAWATER Informal Markets, mabuhay from the Philippines. Again, let me give credit also to ADB, Water.org Philippines, and Philippine Water Works Association. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. People are navigating the COVID-19 pandemic, and millions are striving to endure this crisis with added challenge in the Philippines and around the world. Sad to say, this experience is a nightmare that nobody knows will happen. Water, as one of the top needs of every life, now really needs much focus, as it is important to overcome the trying times brought by this pandemic. Water security is important for sustaining livelihoods, human well-being, and socio-economic development. It involves safeguarding sustainable access to adequate quantities of acceptable water, as well as protection against water risk. Achieving water depends on number of elements, includes natural processes, infrastructures, institutions, and governance. The water sector is bracing a lot of things particularly taking care of their manpower, which is very important to run the system smoothly. We focus to the welfare and protection of our employees in order to ensure that the water system will meet the needed requirements in order to meet the expectations of the consuming public while we are experiencing these difficult times. Despite the risks in our job, we continue to commit ourselves for everyone's safety, as water is the most important matter that can help stop the spread of this deadly virus. We also consider the people's situation in its financial status, so we extend payments without penalties. Truly, our country's water resources are experiencing much stress because of rapid population growth, increase in demand of both households and poor food production, continuous urbanization, pollution, excessive use of water, and unstoppable climate change that affects the water cycle. It is now the high time that to ensure the adequate availability of water in the future, it will require protecting the country's water resources through improvement of catchment areas and watershed protection, continuous and regular assessment and monitoring of consumption patterns and trends, and efficient allocation of water supply. It needs to be given attention and taken into account the institutional decision framework. The challenges and problems will be assessed objectively, comprehensively, and strategically covering all contributor to it in a holistic way. Many water utilities in the Philippines, such as water districts, who solely depend its supply development, operation, and maintenance expenses in their own generated income from customers, local government-run water utility, rural water cooperatives, etc., comprises of the estimated 85% of the total water sector in the country are experiencing financial difficulties. More problems in the water sector may include institutional fragmentation, weak sector planning and monitoring, a small percentage of investments from the private sector to help the existing water utilities, limited access to financing for service improvements and expansions, and if there are available facilities, higher interest of loans available is another problem. Inadequate support for poor urban communities and other water utilities, which manifested by a small budget allotted by the government for water sector. At present, many part of the country has experiencing low pressure to no water, and some totally no access to clean and potable water, but the Philippines water sector is doing its best to meet its own commitment to SDGs. In the other side, sanitation challenges are even greater. Few households are connected to the sewerage network, which is less than 10% by most estimates. Most of the households are connected to septic tanks that are poorly designed, managed, and maintained. Therefore, it resulted to be discharged without treatment. Despite the enactment of different laws in the country, such as National Water Code, to strengthen water legislations in the face of increasing scarcity of water and its changing water patterns, and Philippine Clean Water Act of 2004, to provide for a comprehensive water quality management policy amidst economic growth, and provides for the consistent protection, preservation, and revival of the quality of the Philippine waters with frameworks patterned through the pursuit of sustainable development. we still at the height of many big challenges. Weak management of solid waste and sanitation is really one of it, since this contributed to contamination and pollution of surface and groundwater resources. Despite all the challenges in the Philippines water sector, we continue to embark for the best possibilities to meet the commitment for sustainable water and sanitation. As of today, despite of so many difficulties, many water utilities in the country are committed to push their strategic plan to build its own facilities for improved water supply and sanitation with the help of other loan facilities provided by different financial institutions or even using their own reserve funds for those big water utilities. We continue to comply with the World Health Organization in coming up with our water safety plan. The partnership also of the water utility sector, the national government, and the local government can be observed now in the Philippines in response also to the Supreme Court of the Philippines mandamus for the matter. Again, to all the participants, my fellow uh, speakers, thank you and mabuhay from the Philippines.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. And we have quickly go to the last speaker, last but not least, which is our Professor Art from Hanoi University of Civil Engineering. Professor Ant is the head of Science and Technology Department, Vietnam Water Supply and Sewerage Association. Professor Ant devoting his time for education and training for water supply and sanitation specialists in Vietnam. He has also been involved in many consultancy works as well as intersectoral policy. Professor Viet An.
Yes.
The screen is yours. Yes, you can proceed, please. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for introduction. Good afternoon. So, on behalf of the Vietnam Water Supply and Sewerage Association, I would like to share with you some information about the challenges and the opportunities in the water sector in Vietnam. I will be sharing with you very briefly because I think we would have more time for discussion, and I would avoid the figures of the development goals, focusing more on the solutions, what we have been doing and what we are going to do in the near future. Next slide, please. So we have now more and more cities and towns being under development. Now we already have nearly 40% of population living in urban areas. And the total water supply capacity is close to 10 million cubic meter per day. This is a very intensive growth. And we are doing quite well with the run avenue water ratio decreasing from 31% in 2010 and down to 21% average figure for the whole country. But 21 is still a lot. Some companies has the figure around 10%, so it's still a lot of things to do. Next, please. Talking about the industrial wastewater management, this is a very big issue when we are talking about sanitation, since we have the trend to move of the industries from China and from some other countries to Vietnam. This is a similar situation happening in some other countries in our region. So we have to balance between the encouraging the development, the industries, investment, and environmental protection. So far, we have 1 million cubic meter per day of wastewater generated from industrial parks. And so far, 80% of industrial parks considered meeting effluent standards for wastewater after treatment. So there's the rest to be improved. And later I will share with you, we are changing the concept, the approach to deal with the industrial wastewater based on the new environmental protection law. Next, please. What we are doing for industrial wastewater management, the polluter pays principle should be strictly applied. So far, we have the effluent standards, Class A and Class B, for the all centralized effluent treatment plants. And very soon, we are going to switch to the setting the effluent standard based on the receiving capacity of the rivers, lakes, and the sea. Just a few days ago, the National Congress has approved the new environmental law where we are going to change the concept of environmental pollution control, including and strengthening the wastewater pollution control, the emergency response, and we start to impose the tax for the amount, the number of kilograms of solid waste discharged. Besides, we still have another tools like compulsory automatic monitoring station to be set up in every effluent flow, more than 1,000 cubic meter per day, and encouraged for any effluent flow. And now we are going to combine on the licenses, including EIA, environmental impact assessment, effluent discharge, and other license. So that to create the favor conditions for the investors, but this also to avoid gaps and overlaps among the environmental and resource protection agencies. And 2 years ago, we have issued a decree, specially issued for encouraging the development of eco-industrial parks. This is for the first time in Vietnam, we set the criteria which industrial park is considered eco, where industrial symbiosis is highlighted. Next, please. This is just an example, the approach we are applying for the blacklist industrial flows, where early alarming system is used, and the emergency pond system for industrial wastewater effluent. This is a lot of land is required, of course, but this is very safe approach to be applied for selected industries. And in the participants of this webinar, if you have experience, questions regarding emergency control for the wastewater in the industries, I would like very much to discuss with you and also to learn from you, because we are going to set up the very specific technical guidelines for this. Next, please. For the urban areas, now a lot of cities in Vietnam are under the plan of development of the green and smart city. We are just focusing on the waste management, where we are proposing and encouraging the circular economy implementation with the resource recovery, where different fractions of waste are being treated in the centralized system, looking at biogas for energy recovery and nutrients, and also other resource possibilities. This is under development, and the government is preparing and issuing the legal framework for realizing this. Just over the last 5 years, we have more and more waste to energy plant under the development. This is very new trend because we have no more land to dump the solid waste, and we have also some difficulty in the application of the solar panels, solar energy. Because of the country, we have the stretch country from the north to the south, and only some areas suitable for the development of the solar panel projects. So waste to energy is another way, and this is a very new trend in Vietnam recently. Next, please. And the last solution I would like to mention is to develop the green cities where the water and waste and wastewater are under consideration of the harmony with the landscape and with the architecture, and it helps to increase the price of land. And we have some good models, including Eco Park, 500 hectares in the north, close to Hanoi, and Phu My Hung, 750 hectares in the south, in the Ho Chi Minh City. And we have the green city green building rating system, and we encourage these models to further developed. Okay, next, please. I would like to avoid conclusion and recommendations. I would like to highlight that we need concrete solutions, and the government should create favor conditions to mobilize different resources to implement these concrete plans. I would like to share one news that equitization of water sector in Vietnam is somehow now under reconsideration. 10 years ago, we were under very fast equitization process, but this has also some negative consequences. We remember in the Vietwater, we had some experience shared by Malaysian water partners. Now, because of too intensive equitization, some new companies come into the market, and somehow the social balance and the water supply for all principle cannot be realized. And that is related to the sustainable development goals. And the government somehow want to delay this process and want to keep the certain percentage of the state shareholding among the water companies. Okay, that is something from me, and I'm open for the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Ant. Very good presentation, and also highlighted quite a number of issues and also way forward. Now, dear audience, we have actually received quite a number of questions, and we have more or less classified it into quite a few categories. Yeah? And the first one is about safety of these groundwaters, and this was raised by quite a number of audience who have submitted even before the webinar. Now, I would like to ask our expert from Indonesia. Yeah? There's a question to say that a lot of Indonesia use a lot of groundwater compared to surface water. Do you face high content of heavy metal? Yeah, Pak Rudy? Can you hear me, Pak Rudi?
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Yan. So, Pak Hassan, thank you for a question. You are right that in Indonesia is many households use groundwater. But until now, in this case, we cannot yet find the heavy metal in the groundwater. But we find the heavy metal also in surface water. Some area in Sumatra, in Sulawesi, and also in Borneo and Kalimantan, we find many heavy metal. It's come from mining. So that's our problem now. And then some of water utility, sometimes they use how to treat this with the oxidation, and some utilities they use also split by nanofiltration. But it's very expensive. But also we find in Sumatra, that's one of groundwater from foresters, also heavy metal, and then he come from contaminated from mining also. So for the groundwater used by our people here, it's not so far is not have the heavy metal, except they are contaminated from mining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Rudi. There is a question on which I think I'll probably get Dato' Kadir, who is an expert in this sewerage services technology. Which is better, SBR treatment plant or the conventional one, the one with oxidation dish and clarifiers? Dato' Kadir?
I lost you just now. Because of the line. Can you repeat?
Yes, there is the question there, if you just log on, you say, which is the better SPR treatment plant, the conventional one or the one with oxidation dish and clarifiers?
You mentioned SBR, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, those are the modern ones. I would say before I start, it depends on what suits your pocket. As I say, we have a range. The cheapest one, of course, you go for oscillation pond. So cheap to operate, but there are some side effect to that because the buffer must be clear. Otherwise, you have this order problem. And most of the oscillation pond in Malaysia, we meet with standard B. Good to hear that Vietnam is now having the standard A, standard B kind of things. That's good. But in terms of in general, what we have in Malaysia, operated by the ASIAWATER, we have a lot of extended aeration. Aeration, this is one of it, but I would say is extended aeration process is one of the acceptable because it's affordable in terms of modernization. If you go for SBR, it requires a bit more because SBR is good in terms of space area. I take one example, what we have built in Julutong, in Penang. If you look at the normal process, conventional process, for 1.2 million population, you need about 37 hectares of land. But if you go for SBI, it's only 11.4 or 11.7 to be exact areas to be used. And if you go for stacking up, what they have done, some similar to Thailand, meaning that you have a stack, then you can reduce to 5 hectares using this SBR. So it's a matter of a various combination of choices and what's in your pocket to build. Because this treatment plant is very expensive compared to water and sewage. Sewage is more expensive to treat because you're dealing with microorganisms. So again, the short question to the answer to that depends on what is your affordability. So what example being done in Indonesia if we use a lot of extended ratio.
Okay, thank you, Datuk Kadir. There's a question which I would like Professor An to respond. Let me. This is a big general question, but I think probably it is suitable for Prof to answer. The use of smart technologies to improve the operation of water operators is mentioned very often by
Sekarang udah
water
di-stop
companies.
kan?
And however, the adoption rate by water
Udah
utilities
mulai dikurangi.
has been quite low, and changes are also very slow. What do you think can be done by the private sector to help expedite this? Professor Ant, would you like to answer this, to respond to this? Because you mentioned that over the past 10 years, Vietnam has engaged in a lot of private sector involvement, but now you would like to see that some of the equity to be held by the government. Maybe you can share with us Vietnam's policy on this.
I think this is a very good question, and the smart water and using IT technology in water sector is a very good and hot trend. Private sector, if it sees the benefit, it puts hands in. So using IoT and smart water solution would bring important benefit. Our experience show by using smart technologies, we can significantly improve the run revenue water situation. In Ho Chi Minh City, for example, one daughter company of the Sawako could save millions of cubic meter of water over the last 10 years by using smart water meters and go to the digitalization of the network management. So I think bringing benefit from smart water application, this is a very good encouragement for private sector to take lead in this. And private sector has quick decision making where we have to apply this decision in very short and dynamic manner if we want to apply the new technologies. So I think it goes well, it fits well together, private sector participation and the smart water technologies. And besides suppliers, the service provider, I mean the software and electronics equipment and so on. The private sector can have the solutions and have the products, the supply in a very dynamic and active way. So in our experience, it fit well together and it's really happening. Thank you.
Yeah. There is one question from Mr. William. This question is about horizontal drilling to access natural water from under the seabed or the drain. I don't know whether Mr. Dixon, do you have such system in Philippines? Can you hear me, Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Yeah. There
Yes,
is this suggestion that using horizontal drilling to access natural water from under the seabed or the drain. I don't know whether Malaysia, definitely later I will get Datuk Kade to share
I
with
think
you.
we don't have experienced that kind of
Okay.
system
Yeah,
as of
no
this
problem.
time.
May I now get Datuk Kade? Datuk Kade, would you want to share with everyone about this?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Teo. We have this horizontal drilling. Because just for information, the most abstraction of groundwater is in the state of Kelantan, in northern side of Malaysia, and they have done this horizontal drilling I would say quite successfully. But there's some pros and cons in doing this. I don't see any problem in trying out, but again, you have to try it out because there's some, you got to look at the experience in using this, because this horizontal drilling, first, of course, you can get a lot of water by doing this horizontally, but the system may get choked depending on the ground condition that you have, and also the source of water that supply or replenish this groundwater. Because when talk about horizontal drilling, it's a shallow depth, but it goes horizontal and got so many radial pipes that what they call convey the waters into the central side. And again, you need to study carefully on the system, because the pipes or the horizontal pipe extend to a few distance away, and that area need to be secured so that you don't have any proper contamination. Plus the pipe itself, the porosity need to be looked at, because it may get a lot of sediments trapped into that, and it become choked in years to come. So the maintenance is another part of it. So that's my take, but we can get more information from our water operators on this horizontal drilling, which they have done quite a few in Kelantan.
Thank you, Datuk Kade. Thank you, Datuk Kade. There is a question. This is for Professor Anda Ketan. Yeah, there is a question for you. This about the cost of sewage or sanitation services in Vietnam. And I think the participant wanted to know how to balance consumer affordability to pay and coverage of services to protect public health and environment. Professor An?
Yeah, this question touched my heart because it is a very burdening issue everywhere. I know that even in Japan, they still cannot afford full cost recovery for wastewater service by the tariff. And there is still certain subsidy by the government, or they should find some income from the tax and other policies, financial policies. In Vietnam, the percentage of wastewater tariff compared to the water bill is from 10 to 35%, depending on the city. So for the timeline, we have the roadmap to increase this percentage of the tariff. The legal framework says we have to achieve the full cost recovery, but it takes time to do it. And we have to change the mind, not only of the user, but also the mind of the policymaker and the authority managers. So for now, we still don't have the cost recovery, and we need to have the loans and state budget to invest and to cover the remaining part of the running cost. and we are looking toward the future where we can increase the water tariff, and that water tariff includes the wastewater fee for operation. Every 2 years, we have the water tariff increase. This is a normal period of time for every city to increase, and wastewater tariff follows. And we not only increase the water price, but increase also the percentage, the surcharge for the wastewater. So it's happening, and it takes some time, but it takes a lot of time to do it, I think.
Definitely, it takes a lot of time, to address some of these issues. Finally, I think we can only have one more question. Like to answer one question. This question was addressed to Mr. Dixon. Mr. Dixon, if you look at the question, he say water outage is prevalent in Morong, and with about 10 to 12 hours of outage every day. And based on your years of experience, you say that how would you plan to resolve this? Would you wanted to answer this?
Yeah, I will. I want to answer this beautiful question.
Yeah.
Considering the fact that Morong location has a problem also in terrain, because we have a mountainous area which we have to manage it very well. Another thing that we have encountered in Morong is that, of course, Morong Water District is a government-owned and controlled corporation. As I mentioned in my prepared speech, that a water district only depend its maintenance and operating costs based on our collection. So we used to save money before we able to construct more pumping station. Another thing is that, to give the updates to the one who posted the question, Morong has 85% 24-hour supply and only 15% experiencing 10 to 12 hours of some areas experience 10 to 12 hours. But most of the jurisdiction under Morong Water District experience 24-hour service with a total of 85%. So as of this time, we are on our way constructing our new pumping station and partnering with Manila Water Company through a bulk water agreement to solve some problems in the areas of my jurisdiction. But still, despite of financial difficulties, we are able to deliver 85% of 24 hours water in my area of jurisdiction known as Morong Water District. But I assure the one who posted questions that we are at the top of the situation. We always look into the best solution on how we can address the problem. But they must also be informed that the data maybe they gathered is already 4 to 5 years ago. But you can look on Morong nowadays that we have 85% 24-hour supply of water compared to other water districts in the Philippines which have a bad experience, especially in areas hit by floods and droughts. So I still believe that Morong Water District Supply, which under my lead, is still one of the district that still meet the expectation despite financial difficulties and other challenges.
Thank you. But before we close today's session, may I ask one question to Mr. Chilo? Mr. Chilo, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, because I noticed that in your presentation, talking about current private sector operational context, and you put it that private water operators undertake full financing, construction and operation of pipe water supply schemes on identified sites. And you put it that they are allowed to collect charges based on agreed tariff to recover operating costs and reasonable return on investment. Do you have any guidelines on the basically on the return on investment on this, Mr. Chilo?
Thank you for the question. Right now, the practice on the tariff, the ministry or the government or industry who is like try to give the guideline. It means that to set the price, what will be the price that the private water operators should like provide or the bill to the client. So in order to set the price, we need also to consider on like first is about investment and also the return on investment. So from these two factors, the government try to fit the price, what will be the price that can be, first is to cover the operation, and the second is also to make the investor like be happy or consider to invest. Yeah.
But do you allow the investors from other countries to invest in your water supply?
Yes, right now we have also the investor from the outside the Cambodia come to invest in Cambodia, and recently we have the more and more investor from outside of the country. Yeah. Hello. Hello. We for both the private and also government, we try to also to encourage the investor from outside of Cambodia to come and invest in this sector, because it still has the like the very important part or percentage that we need to invest. Hello.
Yeah.
We have some few technical difficulties. And that's so that's the end of our session for this regional water industry expert dialogue, achieving sustainable development goal for clean water and sanitation, ASIAWATER 2020 event webinar. To all the attendee that is attending our pre-event webinar, we would like to invite you to attend ASIAWATER virtual event on the 30th November until 2 December 2020. To register, please visit www.asiawater.org. And also don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms. We have over 90 exhibitors exhibiting and over 9 free to attend conferences, speakers coming from all the industry players. Once again, thank you. Please stay safe and see you virtually this year.